Joining me now, Democratic Congressman from Connecticut, Jahana Hayes. She is a member of the House Education Committee. Congressman, I got a lot of questions about what went down there. First of all, were you guys trying to break in? I don't think so. I think that's a no. You weren't trying to break in. Who was that guy, the security person? Was it some private contractor or something? Why wouldn't they let you in?
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
And that is completely preposterous. As we all know, we have three branches of government. We are duly elected members of the Congress, which is a separate and co-equal branch of government. So for the president to say that members of Congress tried to break into a federal building is just irresponsible. If you want to check the books, if you want to go over what is happening at the Department of Education, we have a system for that. We have oversight responsibilities, and the members of Congress are the exact people to do that. So if the president and his administration truly wanted to look at what was happening at the Department of Education, we would be conducting oversight hearings right now. The man who met us at the door came out, refused to give us his title, simply said that he was an employee of the Department of Education. But even more concerning than that, the Department of Homeland Security met us at the door. They were inside the building. They never came outside, but they were ready to I guess, stop members of Congress from coming into the building. That is the agency tasked with domestic terrorism. To treat members of Congress in this way shows that you are not a good faith actor and you don't want to be a true legislating partner or solve the problem that you say exists.
I mean, frankly, it created more of a scene by letting you guys just stay out there. Okay, let's move on, because NBC News reports that two 22-year-old members of Musk's Department of Government Efficiency team have obtained administrator email accounts at the Department of Education. And the president says that DOJ is there to check the books. So is this a necessary investigation? Do you have any idea what their intentions are?
I don't think anyone has any idea what their intentions are, but everyone should be concerned about this because data is powerful. The Department of Education collects statistical data on all of our children that are enrolled in school, 49 million children, civil rights information, the information that keeps our school buildings safe. I really don't understand, and I think the American public truly needs to understand what it is that the department does, because many of the concerns that I've heard around curriculum and what is taught in schools is not handled by the Department of Education. The Department of Education has responsibility, like I said, for 49 million children, 7 million of those who receive special education services, for all of our civil rights protections, for $1.6 trillion in student loan programs. I don't understand what they plan to do with this data, and the answers to those questions would come out in congressional oversight hearings. So I hope that the courts step in to enforce that we are separate but co-equal branches of government, and a department that was created by the Congress can only be dissolved by the Congress. And Speaker Mike Johnson should be saying that. I don't understand how someone can run for Speaker of the House and then concede all of their power to the executive branch. This is just a dangerous precedent to set, and moving forward could cause so many other problems.
Let me pick up on the data, because there's concerning new data. This is from the Nation's report card, which found most 4th and 8th grade students fell further behind in reading and saw no improvement in math among 8th graders in the years after the COVID pandemic. Do these numbers give Trump legitimacy to go after the Department of Education? How can the education system be repaired? And
yes.
To do that, might it require dismantling the entire agency? That's what Donald Trump is suggesting. In fact, he wants to have his education secretary pick, Linda McMahon, put herself out of a job.
Well, yes, those numbers absolutely give the president the authority to go after the department. And I'm open to doing that, because at least finally we could address many of the things that we've talked about for so long. We have students who have learning loss as a result of a pandemic. Most of those numbers, and the reason the numbers come down so much, are in red states where they fail to invest in education. But also, in order for a child to learn, they have to show up on green ready to learn, which means their healthcare needs are met. Their nutrition needs are met. They have full bellies. They're in safe communities. They're not worried about guns in schools. You know, their families have access to family medical leave so that they can stay home with them when they're sick. They had birth to 3 initiatives. So all of those things, those things that get kids ready to learn so that when they show up, that's all they're thinking about, are a part of the problem. You can't report out data and results without taking into account all of the variables that have happened. So I absolutely would want the president to look at those numbers and be concerned, but then start a conversation that begins with, okay, what do we do about this to make sure that our children have access to the highest quality education possible?
Last question regarding Musk's DOGE team, which has now inserted itself into at least 17 federal agencies. That's according to the New York Times. Obviously, you are concerned about its influence. How do Democratic lawmakers plan to fight back?
Well, I think a couple things have to happen. First of all, we're going to rely on the courts to step in and say, this is illegal. You are violating the Constitution. And at some point that has to matter. And once the courts do that and establish reestablish the fact that we are separate but co-equal branches of government, Congress has to step in and do oversight. Let's have the hearings. Let's bring in witnesses. Let's look at what Musk is doing and what he plans to do with this information. And then I think the third thing is really educating the public, amplifying what these cuts really mean. What are the implications of all these things? For me, when we talk about the Department of Education, it's less about Elon Musk or Donald Trump and the Department of Education, but it's about the services that will be cut to the millions of students who need them, the wraparound services, the social workers, the behavior therapists that are in school, the accommodations that are made for every student who has an IEP so that they have at least a chance at an opportunity. This is going to affect the lowest income communities the most. It is going to affect the future of our country because we will not have an educated workforce to carry out our economy. And every person needs to understand how that will affect them and their families. Donald Trump and Elon Musk are millionaires. They're wealthy individuals. Their children don't rely on the public school system. This idea to rob the piggy bank of the Department of Education and put it into vouchers is a scam. There are about 1 million children who participate in private voucher programs and 49 million who attend public schools. Who's taking care of all of those other children? I think for parents, it is their responsibility to say, well, I only care about my child, but it's our responsibility to care about every child.
We hear that. Connecticut Congresswoman Jahana Hayes, thank you so much. I'll look forward to seeing you again.